I'm gonna be completely honest, I have absolutely no idea on how to start this video. It's like, what could I possibly say that hasn't been said about Doors a million times prior? It had easily one of the most successful launches for a Roblox game. Not just managing to pull in Roblox players, but managing to pull in a whole crowd of Let's Players, theorists, and even people who just never heard of Doors in the first place. People were both impressed and curious by the unique gameplay of Doors, and that's not to mention the game just looked gorgeous and featured a killer soundtrack. Doors just overall seemed like it'd be more fit as an actual game as opposed to on Roblox. But as time went on and people's attention spans got shorter, the crave for Doors slowly began to dwindle, and that's not to mention the plethora of broken promises and pushback updates by the devs made it much harder to really keep the Doors hype train going. But, despite all of those issues, after around 5 months, we finally got our hands on the Hotel Plus update. The update had the devs go into Doors Floor 1 and tweak and pretty much fix up everything, turning into what they consider to be a final product. They went in and added some new mechanics, some new rooms, and just other cool things in general. You could very much say that the rules have changed. In all reality, though, the rules didn't really change that much. They just added some new things, and so that was a lie. But, the update still managed to turn around the game's hype, and it yet again had another explosion in popularity. But just like the last time, as time went on, the player base and popularity once again tanked heavily. Up until today, the date the update dropped, which is not the same time as this video coming out, due to poor time management and working on other projects. But, hey, if Elsplash can miss their own birthday, I can miss their update. But in all seriousness, we're going to be doing a deep dive analysis on both the new modifiers update and Doors in general. I want to see if, after being out for a whole year, is this game stinky bad, overhyped poo-poo, or does it actually manage to still be fun after all this time? When it comes to the gameplay loop of Doors, it's classified as your average roguelike. You have a dungeon, or in this case a hotel, and you're meant to get to the end while having to deal with randomly generated rooms and monsters. Honestly, when it comes to being a roguelike, compared to a lot of other games, this game does not hold up very well. While yes, in concept it follows all the rules of being a roguelike, I still feel as if the devs really just dropped the ball on making it anything special. The game just feels so lackluster when it comes to what makes most roguelikes fun, RNG, or more specifically the R in RNG. Random. Everything in Doors just feels so scripted and predictable. While yes, some monster appearances are random, you can still predict most things. You know you're going to get Seek 2 times the run, you know at Doors 50 you'll meet Figure, and after that you'll get Jeff's shop. There's nothing unique or special about a Doors run. Once you've beaten one, you've practically played them all. When I play a game like The Binding of Isaac or Risk of Rain 2, I know the run I previously had won't be the same as my next run. Why is that? Because there's a wide variety of items, bosses, and enemies I can encounter. Base game Doors just kinda has none of that. There are only 7 main entities in Doors and a handful of others who don't really contribute much to most runs. I don't even really mind the fact that Doors has a smaller roster of entities, I just wish they either A, used them better, or B, had harder mechanics about them. Because when the entities provide no real challenge or threat, that's where it just becomes a chore to go up against them. Everyone knows unless you have 4+ people, surviving a rush attack is extremely easy. They also know, as long as you have quick reaction time, Ives doesn't really do anything but cause a minor inconvenience, and if you just listen closely enough, you can always hear Screech. Although I do actually like Ambush and Haunt, because they feel the most unique out of the entities and they always provide a pretty difficult challenge. With Halt, you're stuck in this long hallway and you have to be quick enough to turn around or walk backwards to avoid getting caught by him, while trying to make it to the escape door. And with Ambush, it's also pretty difficult, seeing as you have no pre-visual warning to when he's coming, and you have to have quick reaction and listening skills to tell if he's fully gone or if he's turning right back around. Comes to the two bosses of Doors, you have Seek and Figure. Seek is pretty easy as long as you're alert enough and manage to dodge all the obstacles in your way. Although that sounded negative, I really do enjoy these segments, and I'm glad that he's limited to 2 per run so he doesn't become too overused. Figure, on the other hand, is a bit more challenging. Your first encounter with him has you in the library trying to locate enough books to put together a combination to solve the lock on the next door. Honestly, a solid challenge. I feel as if Figure's AI is just smart enough to where it's not an actual complete chance, but he's also not dumb enough to where he isn't a threat. Overall, the first encounter with Figure is pretty good. S tier. Because this is a tier list video now. What did I mean by that? But right after you beat Figure, the next room you get is guaranteed to be Jeff's shop. Here's the second and only place where you can buy all the items you need for the rest of your run. But since we're on the topic of items, why don't we go over all the items in Doors? When it comes to items, there's not very much variety here. You have your light objects, which includes a lighter, a candle that alerts you when an entity is nearby, and a battery-operated flashlight. Next up on the list is the key-based items. You have a lockpick that unlocks mostly every door, and a skeleton key that can be used to unlock an inventory room in the infirmary, which inside of that room, it's filled to the brim with gold and the Herba Viridis, a plant that constantly heals you. This key can also be used for another area, which is something else I'll get into later in the video. Last but not least, you have your common bandage and vitamin pills. The only real unique item you can find indoors is the crucifix, which is a cross which can kill almost every entity in the game. It's a one-time use that's meant to be used as a failsafe if you're about to die. Doors 60 through 90 are pretty much the exact same thing as the previous doors before, just with certain entity spawn ranks cracked up. But doors 90 through 100 are where things actually begin to spice up. This area is called the Green Room. It's a completely dark and dreary zone, resulting in there being no indicator when Rush is coming, but instead you just have to listen out for his voice. Unless you have a candle. There are hidden snares on the ground that you need to be wary of. Screech and eyes spawn a lot more often here, and just overall, this is the one part of Doors I honestly wish the game would feel like a lot more. Because whilst being a roguelike, one thing I didn't really talk about is the fact that Doors is a horror game as well. It should have moments like these where the players are on their toes, afraid of what's to come. I honestly hope with Floors 2, if the devs aren't going to focus on the unique randomness of a roguelike, I really do think they should focus more on the horror aspect that includes more parts like this. After completing the Green Rooms, though, you finally made it to the final door. Door 100, the end of the journey. Now it's just you and that elevator. But wait, is that... Yep, Figure's back now and he's chasing you down again. This part is basically a somewhat copy of what Door 50 was, but a lot better. There are a lot of corners and hallways here, making keeping tabs on him a lot harder. Everything just feels much more scarier, you know? Not to mention, they just have this sick-ass song playing throughout the entire time. Your main objective here, though, is to collect 10 different fuses, find the electrical key, put said fuses in fuse box. After that, you light Figure on fire, do a quick little memory puzzle game, and get the hell out of there, because apparently, being lit on fire and then falling out of a window doesn't kill him. But after all that, you've beaten Doors. Congrats! Honestly, despite the weird reappearance baloney, this ending is pretty solid and builds up enough suspense for part 2. And here's the thing, Doors in of itself is far from a bad game. The devs clearly put in so much time and effort into polishing and making this game look gorgeous. Every entity looks unique and well made, not just some sort of bright colored thing that doesn't look scary at all and just played off of people's mascot horror crave. L-Splash's use of design here is also something that shouldn't go unnoticed. It's quite impressive, because although most of Doors is just walking through a bunch of empty hallways and finding things, they still manage to keep a dark and ominous ambience which helps the player stay immersed in the mood of Doors. Some good examples are Figure's footsteps and noises, Halt's ambience, Ambush's screaming, and the random growling and footsteps that play randomly while you're walking down a hallway. But even though they added things like that, I still can't shake the fact that at its main core, Doors fails at being a roguelike. I know some people might say it's wrong to compare Doors to a game like Risk of Rain 2 or The Binding of Isaac because those are real gamer games and these are games that have years of development and have teams of people working on them. But remember, at the start of this video, Doors is praised for being akin to the standards of a real game. L-Splash isn't just some random teenage group of Roblox developers who decided to come together and accidentally made a really good game. No, they have history when it comes to making games. So to just excuse the lackluster amount of content in Doors is kind of just stupid. A game like Doors could be so much better if they had a lot more variety or if they just included a few more entities. It'd make it to where you don't already fully know what's about to happen when you enter a room. Stuff like that can help keep players on their toes and keep them engaged even after beating the game a couple of times. Or how about they just add a plethora of other miscellaneous items that just add some sort of uniqueness to each and every run, because despite all of my criticisms, the first few playthroughs of Doors are really good. The game's creative and fun, it's just that it gets dragged down by the fact that there's not really much to do with base Doors. And since updates take time, which means new content takes the same amount of time, they really just need something to keep this game more engaging. Which leads us into the second part of the video, modifiers. So, on the 1-year anniversary of Doors, L-Splash dropped a trailer for a new and up-and-coming Doors update titled Modifiers. The update featured a vast variety of game modifiers that shook up the way base Floors 1 could be played. This update managed to take most of the problems I personally had with Doors and fix them. For those who don't know the way that the Doors modifiers works, here's a short but sweet explanation. Before loading into the game, you're allowed to pick from a pretty hefty amount of different challenges or effects that will take place during your run. These can range from modifiers that are meant to help you, like raising the chances of gold or disabling the dark rooms, or on the contrary, modifiers that are meant to hurt you, like certain entity spawn rates being cranked up or entering the game with half health. or just modifiers that completely change how Doors feels, like added fog or the floor being all slippery. It's honestly quite impressive, all the ideas and random things they came up with for this update. The modifiers update was a genius idea by Elsplash. It allows the devs to keep base floors 1 still easy enough to pick up and hard to master, while at the same time allowing those who wanted a more difficult and RNG based floors 1 the option to tweak it to their heart's desire. While yes, the update wasn't floors 2 like everyone was hoping, this update features so much content that you're basically getting a new Doors experience every time you play, which since the update features so much content, it allows the devs to not feel pressured to slave away to make a completely new floor in fear of people getting bored. As I said, it's everything I could have wanted. The added badges that you can earn to unlock more modifiers was a pretty smart idea. It adds the incentive to grind and push yourself to play with more difficult modifiers since you're being rewarded with new content. Not to mention, trying to get the Hotel Hell badge was one of the most intense experiences I've ever had in gaming.
Oh! 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 Yeah! 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 Kill yourself! Oh! Alright. It? Alright, now. Yep. Short. Ole mole. Oh! Oh! Shut the door! Yes! Peter! Oh! 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 Oh man! Bow! Bow!
So after spending a fair bit of time looking back over Doors, what's the final verdict? Base Doors Floor 1, whilst being a wonderful and unique experience for the first few runs, sadly over time begins to lose its charm and replay value after getting used to the mechanics, which is something a roguelike shouldn't be doing. Sadly, I know that a lot of people are just going to see this video as me hating on Doors since most of the video is just me critiquing it, when it's not the case. Doors has a lot of ups, but I can't just ignore the pretty steep lows too. I know that Doors is a lot of people's first roguelike, so the issues don't really stand out that much to them, but for your average roguelike fan, there are just so many things here that are missing. Luckily, the modifiers update does everything right and it improves on so much. It manages to please the common player who just wants to play more Doors while offering a much more roguelike and more difficult game for the more experienced. When it comes to what I won't add it to base floors, I don't really think there's much of anything the devs can do now since they've already released the modifiers update. And not to mention, floor 1 has been the same for around like 8 months. So instead, I'm going to look into the near distant future and discuss things I want for floors 2, which seems to not be that far away. I really hope, as I said before, Elsplash decides to take Floor 2 in a more horror-focused direction, or they just make it more roguelike and craft it to where every run feels unique. If Floors 2 is just a new location with like 2 new entities and 1 new boss, I'm gonna be very disappointed. But I have high hopes for the devs, and the screenshot they've shown recently looks really nice. I have so much respect and admiration for what Elsplash has done, and while Doors might not be perfect in everything it could have wanted, to act like it doesn't deserve the fame it got would be a straight up lie. So, see you guys when Floor 2 drops, or if this video gets like 334 likes, I'll maybe review the rest of Elsplash's game catalog. See ya.